Hello everyone, can you all hear me? Can I have a confirmation that I am audible to everyone? Okay, so let's begin the live analysis of Endeavour Open Mac Mockcat 16. So as we have the luxury to start from wherever we want, we are starting from LRDI section, which was the toughest section this time around. I feel this was the game changer if you think from the perspective of making it to 99 percentile or above, or somewhere in between 95 to 99, right? Because this was a paper where it is designed in such a way this time that you could either go and score very good marks, or you can get stuck and you will waste your time and a lot of time would work against you. So if I talk about this first set, which is from question number 1 to 4, it was, if you read it carefully and if you jot down all the data that is given to you, it would take you in between 7 to 9 minutes and you will be able to answer all four questions. So for a 95 percentiler or a person who is targeting 95 percentile, this kind of a set is must for him, because it was not that tough. For the first part, it was a moderate level of set where you were rather needed to analyze each options carefully. So each option was also a puzzle. So that was the thing that could take you between 9 minutes, and a person who is very good with understanding part could have finished it within 7 minutes. So a 95 percentile, it's a must to be done. This was a very moderate level set. Now if I talk about this set is data intensive. Lot of number crunching has to be done. But again, when you are talking about least, you could have done fifth, seventh and eighth question if you have solved fifth correctly. But if you have gone wrong in fifth one, you could have done all three wrong. So this is a set where you could either get all correct, or you can get all wrong. But again, this was a set which should have been ideally attempted by people who are targeting 98 percentile or plus in this section. Ideal timing would be 8 to 10 minutes. So we have to find out least amount of cost that would be incurred from for transportation, and only second question is where you need to solve it again or do the solving again. So if I am talking about a paper where I have only 40 minutes to solve all the questions, I would have read questions quickly and I would have attempted 5, 7, and 8 rather than going for all four questions, because for one question I have to solve the whole set again. So rather than doing like this, I would have done fifth, seventh, and eighth. So three questions here could have been easily done. Now comes the biggest game changer, the person who could have recognized this set. If you would have recognized this set, that it should not have been attempted in the first place, you would have done very good. But again, this is a place where everyone would have had a urge to do it, because first of all it is an LR set, LR kind of a set. And if I have seen it right from the students perspective, they all love to solve LR kind of sets, and this is a pure LR set. But again, if I look at it, it will easily consume 12 or more minutes. So if you understand by the time 4 minutes are gone that you should not have attempted this, that's a good chance. But again, after investing 4 minutes, you always have an urge that you should solve it further. But again, this was a set that I would not recommend to be solved at the first place. And if you're solving and if you have understood it that you should leave it, you should leave it as soon as you have understood that, because it can churn out lot of time from your exam, because now my exam is only 40 minutes per section, so I could not give more time to this section, right? This particular set. So I would recommend this should be left only to be attempted if you have nothing to do, and which is not the case in this paper actually. And if you have done all the sets, then yes, you should come and solve it, right? So this is a set which should not be attempted in the first place. But again, this is a set which would have everyone come in and attempt it, because it is a pure LR set, correct? So this is I have written it 99.5 percentile plus, but even if you don't attempt it, you can achieve it. So even if you don't attempt this question or this set, you can still achieve the required 99 percentile from the other 5 sets. Plus this time around you have some different questions as well. Now let's see this set. This set looked very big. If I have judged it from the face value, many people would not have attempted it. First of all, it is from games, and I have seen people have a huge fear from game set. And then too the table looks very big, and there is lot of data given, plus lot of writings written, a lot of big paragraphs written. So the people leave it. But again, this set has just simple counting, and if I leave the 16th question, 13th, 14th and 15th can be just done with simple counting, right? So if you just do a simple counting, it will easily be solvable. So you will be able to solve 3 questions maybe within 5 minutes if you have understood the data clearly. But again, reading would take some time, so I would fairly keep it between 7 to 9 minutes, and 3 questions are surely achievable. If I don't go for the fourth one where I have to calculate the average per game, points average per game, which is lot of calculation, because first of all I have to find out all the points scored by each team, then I have to divide it by number of matches, and that too from for each team. So again, it will take a lot of time, consume a lot of time. So I would say you should have attempted 3 questions, and 90 percentile plus, the students who are targeting 90 plus, they should have done this, and they should have done 3 questions at least within 7 minutes, right? Now let's look at something new. This time you had some 4 data sufficiency questions. So rather than one set was not there. There were 4 data sufficiency questions. So if I talk about this question, this was fairly dependent on the knowledge of coordinate you had. If you had a depth in coordinate geometry, you could have done this within 2 minutes. If you have thought about the question as well as what is given in the data set, you could have done it within 2 minutes. But again, I would say high depth knowledge is required into coordinate geometry. So I would say only few would have attempted it. Rather, most of the people would not have attempted it. But again, it's okay if you are not attempting, first of all, because it is only one question. Now, if I talk about 18th question, this is purely linear equation dependent question. The data is very simple to understand. Question should have been attempted. This question should have been attempted, and you should have got the answer as well, right? So this is a question which should have been done by most of the people. Now, if I talk about this question is fairly tricky. It does not have any depth in any of the concept. It is just tricky. Just you have to see the converse, which would not be true in both the cases. So you have to just look for the converse things. Now, if I look at The last question in data sufficiency, this was a straightforward 3 marks for everyone. All those who have given this exam should have done this. It was a straightforward, direct question. Everybody should have attempted and got it correct. Right. Now let's talk about the last set. If you read it, you would realize it that it is directly into syllogisms. But yes, you need a careful reading for it. And once you have understood that it is from syllogs, you could have done it, you could have broken it within 8 minutes. And all 4 questions were doable if you were able to make the Venn diagram. So again, this question should have been done. And I feel most of you must have attempted this paper, this set, because it had 4 questions which were basically only on syllogs, and that too very basic. But again, it would take some time because every question has certain statements, and every question you have to rethink again, because every question has a condition and every option is also a condition into it. So yes, you would take time. Once you have done the Venn diagram as well, you would still take time. So that is why I have mentioned 8 minutes, but it should have been done by most of you. So now if I go by DILR percentile versus score mapping, I would give 100 percentile to 48 at the score of 48. Then 35 you will get 99 percentile, 98 percentile on 30. And this is because you would always be stuck at some point, because if I talk about 40 minutes, they will never work completely in your favor. There will be some 4 5 minutes which will work against you. Let's suppose you are attempting the biggest set, or you were stuck in some or the other question. So that could have fairly churn up your some of your time. So again, because of that reason, I am considering a little lower cutoffs. So similarly, for 95 percentile, you could be doing 9 questions and 11 with 9 correct and 2 incorrect. So that is fairly, I am talking about 3 sets which could have been done. If you could have found out the right questions or the right sets, you could have done it. And similarly, if I talk about 90 percentile, I am talking about 2 sets where you could have gone wrong by one question. And if I'm talking about 80 percentile, that is 16 marks. So that is 1 set and 2 3 syllogs that could have done it. So if I'm talking about, if I have very good verbal as well as quantitative aptitude, I could have just gone to this 16 marks and could have cleared the cutoff for some of the colleges where the cutoff is 85 percentile to get a call. So if you can do good in verbal as well as con, you should at least think to get 85 or 90 percentile. So which is not that tough. Okay. So this was my analysis on DILR section. So I would hand it over to Saurabh sir. So Saurabh sir,
Yes, yes, sir.
so please now you can share the screen, and
Just a moment.
yes sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes sir. Okay sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your analysis of the DI part. Taking over for the quant section, taking forward for the quant section. Quite a balanced paper. A lot of topics were covered. Yes, there was a small bias towards numbers this time. Some more amount of questions from numbers. A little bias for there. So otherwise a fairly balanced paper here, quant section. If I look at the topics, distribution of the topics, if you see, there are 6 questions on numbers. Out of 28, 6 questions, this is almost 25%, a little less than 20, somewhere around 22%. 6 questions. Now, a few chapters, topics like inequalities, permutation and combination, progression, surge and indices, and time speed distance had 2 questions each. 5 of these topics, permutation, combination, inequalities, progressions, surge indices, and TSD. Rest of all the topics had single questions each. Averages, circles, functions and graphs, heights and distance had they been there after some time, I think. Linear equations, logarithms. There was one miscellaneous question, probably which you cannot put it into these topics or any of these. Percentage, polygons, profit loss ratio proportion and set theory. Just one question from set theory. Moving on to the mapping of the difficulty level. Out of the 28, 9 questions, which is somewhere around 32%, 1/3 of the paper. 9 questions, 1/3 of the paper was easy questions. Easy, something standard which you can solve very fast. 13, that means again a little less than half, 50% of the paper was moderate. 50%. Only around 22% of the paper was difficult or time consuming. 6 questions were difficult or time consuming out of the 28. So fairly okay, not very difficult paper for a 40-minute timing. For 60 minutes, yes, this might be a little difficult in that sense because of those 6 difficult questions. CAT usually even in the 60-minute 34 question pattern did not have usually 6 difficult questions. There would be around 4 or 5 difficult. So maybe a little difficult on a level of 60, but for 40 minutes, anyway, those 6 questions could have been avoided. So fairly balanced paper that way. Let's see those questions which were easy first. Set theory. There was a question about people owning phone or a car, just 2 types of sets, set A, B, owning a phone and owning a car. Some people did not own neither a phone nor a car and some own both. That was to be calculated. And then that number was given. So again, a very easy question, probably almost mental type of calculation. The only thing is there were statements which had to be found. So maybe you wrote a little bit and then you verified which of those statements were true or false. The next easy question was on numbers. A 2-digit number DD raised to a single digit E became a 4-digit number DEED. Now, this is what I say is something which is very easy. It comes out of your memory. Probably most of you would have even remembered, oh, this is it. If you remembered your squares and cubes. The only thing, of course, is you might have thought of whether multiple choices, multiple possibilities are there or not. But all the options had a unique answer. There was no option more than one, none of these. So, and even cannot be determined was not there. So this was a very easy question. You remembered one question, you remembered one number, and you said, okay, this is it. A matter of probably seconds rather than minutes. Numbers had 2 more easy questions. The greatest prime factor of 2 raised to 100 minus 2 raised to 96. Again, something very simple, matter of seconds. Easy. And the third easy one was powers of 11 that can divide 12 raised to 4 minus 1, 12 raised to 6 minus 1, and 12 raised to 8 minus 1. Luckily, it stopped at 8. Had it been 10, it could have been a trap. 10 would have been a trap. If it went on till 10, that would have been a trap, and because there is one more power there. So here, even if somebody judged something and did a quick calculation, it would lead to a right answer. So easy question there. Time, speed, distance, one easy question out of the 2. 2/3 of the distance is traveled on a bike, and then the bike has a problem, so the bike is pushed for the rest of the 1/3 of the distance, and a timing is given. So you have the distance, ratio of the time distances, ratio of the timings. So ratio of speeds could have been worked out very quickly. Quite an easy question. Progressions. There were magazines which were arranged in a line. The prices of the magazines were in an arithmetic progression, and the difference was also given as 2. And such small calculation, yes, this could have been led to a trap. This could have led to a trap. All you have to do was verify whether no price, any of the first prices, lowest prices go into a negative value or not. If that care is taken, this was an easy question. Logarithms usually may be sometimes difficult, but this time it was very easy, very easy. And not only just easy, the numbers were also easy. You were just to calculate the value of a given expression. Log, that was the only thing, twice it would be visible. But otherwise, the numbers were also absolutely easy. I mean, everybody would have got this correct. Everybody who attempted would get it correct very fast. One easy question was of functions and graphs. Easy, but of course, a little tricky because of the square. An equation is given x square minus 4y square is 0, and you are supposed to identify the graph. The only thing is, maybe you lead to a wrong conclusion because of, you will jump to a wrong conclusion because of the square term. Otherwise, very easy. Surds and indices, and two equations are given. 2 raised to something is equal to 8 raised to something, 9 raised to something is 3 raised to something. Both involved, the powers involved x and y, on one side x, one side y. So two linear equations very quickly were generated and a very quick answer for x and y. So short and easy. All of these 9 questions were quite short and quite easy. So maybe these 9 questions maybe could have been solved within probably around 12 minutes. Each 12 minutes a total of 12 minutes for these 9 questions. Okay, let's go on to the moderate questions. Heights and distances. After some time, as I said, 3 poles, heights were given, distance between the tops of the first and the second and the first and the third were given, and the distance between, the horizontal distance between the second and the third were asked. Just simple Pythagoras application of Pythagoras theorem. Right angle triangles, that's it. Moderate, just because a figure was to be drawn and it was maybe a little calculated. Just 2 Pythagoras theorems. Permutation combination. How many terms are there in the expansion of this expression? Y plus y cube plus y raised to 5, y raised to 7, whole raised to 5. A very standard type of a question. Quite easy as such. But maybe you've taken a little time thinking of doing any distribution theories. That's why I'm putting it as a moderate question. Time, speed, distance. Second question was circular races. 3 people were running a race. Ideally, this could lead to a difficult question, calculative question, but I'm putting it as moderate from difficult. I'm stepping it down as moderate because the speeds were given as n and n plus 1. Now, again, I'm saying it is difficult. Why? Because it could have been difficult because people would not know what to do with n and how to solve with n. But 2 simple consecutive numbers are always co-prime. With that, this question could have been solved very fast. So that is why I'm stepping it down from moderate to difficult to moderate. A question on numbers. There is a football league. There's a team participating, playing with all the other teams. It played some 60 games. It never lost 3 consecutive matches, and it never won 5 consecutive matches. And then you are asked, what is the range of n? The number of n is the number of wins. So all you have to do was again maximize wins and minimize wins and solve this. Quite a moderate question. Inequalities and spatial properties. A standard question. I'm putting it as moderate. I'm upgrading it as moderate rather than easy. Ideally, it could have been considered easy for anybody who has practiced a little bit. But I'm upgrading it as moderate because of the number of fractions that were there, factors that were there. Luckily, it was already factorized for you. Inequalities Even the factorization was done ready-made for you. All you had to do was identify the answer. So instead of putting it as easy, I'm still counting it as moderate. Linear equation. Two people, maybe everybody knows the names Ramanujan and Hardy, both mathematicians. A question on their ages, they talk to each other. My age is this, your age is this, something like that. And you had to solve one equation, you have to solve two equations. Luckily, they turned out to be the same. So a very easy sort of a question on ages linear equations. Circles. There was a question on circles. Three tangential circles touching each other. Centers forming a triangle. The distances, the lengths of the triangle, three sides of the triangle were given. And the smallest radius was to be identified. So quite moderate, could have been done quite fast. Moderate just because somebody might still not know how to solve. That is why. Otherwise, quite easy. There was a question on variation. Usually call it ratio proportion variation. Reduction in speed is proportional to the number of passengers in a boat. What is the maximum number of passengers that it can carry? A very standard type of a question. Moderate. Averages. Two cases of marks are given. Mega can have this marks, then this would be the average, this mark, this would be the average. Just form two equations and solve. A little bit of unimportant superfluous information was there in the question. Maybe that is why I'm putting it as moderate. Otherwise, easy. Two linear equations, form equations, easy. Polygon, perimeter of an octagon. All the sides of the octagon were perpendicular to adjacent sides. Adjacent sides were perpendicular. All the angles were either 90 or 270 interior angles. So all the sides were either horizontal or vertical, and the perimeter was to be calculated. Quite easy, just that it had to be identified what the question was. This miscellaneous question was a little between difficult and moderate. Somebody betting 6 times, winning 3 times, losing through 3 times. And each time the betting amount was half of the amount remaining. And you have to find the end result. So somebody might still feel that what is the order of winning and losing, whether it is important or not. And that is why they might leave this. So that is the reason I'm putting it as moderate rather than between moderate and difficult. Just easy otherwise. Profit and loss, quite an easy question, except for the fact that there was a little lengthy. 4 percentages were given and a mark price was to be found. Very standard, easy question, but 4 were there. That is why I'm upgrading it to moderate. A question on percentages, a table is given. This is again an easy question. You should not have thought of this as a difficult question because there is a table. Population distribution table is given, and you have to find the number of females in a particular age group. So this was not difficult, but just because of the table part, something is tabulated and then there's data you have to read. So maybe that is why I'm upgrading it to moderate from easy question. So that was the moderate questions. The 6 difficult questions or time consuming questions. The first was a permutation combination question. 7%, 7 committees, exactly 1% common in committees. Which of the options is correct? Any 2 committees, only 1 person can be common. Maybe you could have judged the answer. That would be fairly safe enough. But if you tried, this was a little lengthy. A little lengthy to try maybe. And maybe you don't know where to start and how to start. So that is why it is put as I'm marking it, mapping it as time consuming rather than difficult. Progressions, finding the sum of a given expression. Ideally, I should put this as maybe a little better than more than easy, a little easier than moderate. But again, I have seen people not being able to solve this very quickly. A series is given 3 upon 7 into 11 plus 3 upon 11 into 15 and so on. And you have to find the summation. If you had understood this question, remembered the method of solving, this would have been a matter of seconds. Just the 3 at the numerator was the reason why I'm putting it into time consuming and difficult. It would lead you to a thought, should you do it or not? There's a small change. Should I do this question or not? That is the reason. 2 more questions on numbers. The first 8,000 numbers, excluding the squares and the cubes, are to be written. So this is something a little different from what you've been doing. 8,000, counting the squares till 8,000, cubes till 8,000. Again, understanding how many are both. So a little lengthy, little difficult to understand in the beginning. What to do, how to attempt, what to approach, how to approach this question. Because of that, this is a little time consuming. The next one was a little more difficult. It was an 18-digit number written in base 7, and half of them digits were letters ABC 123, CBA 321, things like that. It was an 18-digit number written in base 7, and it was divisible by 4. First thing, we don't know what to do. Maybe we don't know what is the divisibility rule for 4 in base 7. So that was one more difficulty level. What happens? How do we decide the divisibility rule for 4 in base 7? And then you were asked how many ordered pairs of ABC are there. So that way it was difficult. Maybe we could have avoided this question. Maybe. Inequalities in spatial properties. Modulus divided by this. A few trials, maybe a little lengthy, and this would give you a sure answer. Not difficult, maybe a little lengthy, little time consuming, keeping 40 minutes in mind. Surds and indices, a little lengthy or a little different this time again. Expression is given, cube roots of 2 radicals. You have 2 radicals with cube roots, and the value is 3. The difference is 3. What is the value of x? X was to be calculated not as an exact value, but ranges were asked. So again, because of the range, it is easy to calculate the value of x. Actually, it is easy to calculate the value of x. But because the options have ranges, you don't even know how to try. So that is what makes it difficult. X square was to be found. Actually, not x, but x square was to be found. Okay. So these were the 6 difficult questions, or difficult or time-consuming questions. The scores for percentiles. Okay, none very difficult, luckily. Out of the 9 easy questions, I would expect all of you to have attempted the 9. Moderate 13 questions. Maybe you missed out on one of them. 12 should have been attempted. 6 difficult time consuming question. Maybe one of them should have been attempted. At least one. At least one. This gives a total of 22 attempts out of the 28. Maybe you could have attempted a little more if there were 60 minutes, but because of the 40 minutes, we are taking it as 22 attempts. That would be a fairly good attempt for 98 percentile. So 22 attempts for 98 percentile, and accuracy is always supposed to be high now, 80 to 85, but I'm still putting it as a little lower. I'm accepting 18 correct and 4 wrong, just because of the number of quantity, 22 attempts. 18 correct, 4 wrong can lead you to a good score of 50. This would be for 98 percentile. A score of 50 for 98 percentile, 56 for 99, and 66 for 100 percentile. 95 percentile could have been achieved at a score of around 42, 90 percentile at 35, and 27 for 80 percentile. Just attempt the 9 easy questions and you are at 80 percentile. And if you are doing just that much, I'm sure there should be no error. With 100% accuracy, 9 attempts, 80 percentile could have been easily achieved. So anybody Now targeting something should aim at least for 95 percentile, nothing below 95. So that was the analysis of the quant section. I would invite Vijita madam to take over for the verbal section.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. You can take over the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I think that'll have to be enabled.
Uh, just a moment.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone, and let's understand the verbal section. Real surprise this time. I think the surprise started last with the last mock, and the surprise continues. It's almost like a Diwali bonanza here, with those very easy question types that you've been given. Let's look at what it looked like and why are we calling it a surprise. Okay. So 5 RCs, 28 questions totally. And this seems to be, happening more often these days, the pressure of time. But, there were things that made this easier. All right. So 28 questions were scattered across 5 RCs, 5 RCs with 4 questions each, and that made for 20 questions. Interestingly, logical continuation, 3 questions, sentence completion or a vocab based fill in the blanks, that's one such question, and 2 statement conclusion and 2 statement assumption questions out of the blue would have surprised you, would have, if you went prepared to be dependent on the verbal sectional, on the VA questions, and you were looking forward to maybe cracking the out of context questions, summary questions. This was a rude surprise, a rude shock. But to think of the kind of questions these were, if you just got into them, you will actually have sailed very smoothly through these 5 questions, which is sentence completion, statement conclusion, statement assumption, and would have even managed a couple of the logical continuation questions very well. Now, that's why it turned out to be not so much of a rude shock. It turned out to be quite a pleasant surprise, okay, a welcome surprise. Let's look at the RCs, and that's why this entire sectional has actually been marked an easy to moderate one, because there were a number of questions you could actually take. Let's look at them. So the first RC, economics. By now you've learned that if there is an economics passage, I'll probably not want to get into that. There are some of you who do very well with such passages, but some of you might want to steer away. So maybe not my first choice here, not a lengthy one. And the questions, there were 2 difficult questions, right? First of all, economics carries jargon. It takes me a while to understand. And then if there are a couple of difficult questions that can, make this situation bad, worse for me, which is why I'll probably not select this RC first. I'd rather go with RC2. Very, very easy language, and it's a very easy topic. It's a topic that a lot of you might even have read in the newspapers and might be aware of, all right, which makes it very easy to read and relate. 520 words, not lengthy. The questions you will find are actually moderate. There is that one difficult question because the easy passage, because of the easy passage, even that difficult inference won't be so very difficult, can be managed because you understand the passage very well. A definite choice for me, RC2. Next, public policy, education, bridging the gap between education and employability skills, talking of the national education policy, etc. Easy one, because though the language was not so straightforward, 480 words, 4 questions, you will find that the questions were actually very easy. All 4 questions have been marked as moderate here. which is very, very, which makes the entire package a very easy one. The topic is easy to understand, relatable. It's almost an idea that we know that there is this problem of graduates not being equipped with employability skills and need that is, for them to cross over to work and take up employment in the corporate world. To understand that concept, to read the passage quickly, understand the passage, not a lengthy passage, and to find that the questions are moderate, makes this entire passage a very easy one. It's a wonderful package. So definitely yes to RC3. Next, philosophy. Bertrand Russell and his relevance to the world. Almost biographical, we could say, not so abstract. It's just when those ideas are discussed towards the end. And given the fact that Bertrand Russell is a logician, mathematician, philosopher, given that this entire passage looks a little philosophical, otherwise it's almost biographical. So not very difficult reading, especially the first couple of paragraphs are easy. And then when it comes to what exactly was Russell's message to the world, that becomes a little challenging. What are the questions? Not lengthy again, 470 words is not a lot of length. One really easy question, towards the end, you found that main idea related, very easy question. Another main idea related question, rather difficult. I'm talking of this summarizing of his ideas, rather difficult. There was an inference that was difficult, but there was one question that was moderate. So this passage again is probably something that I might want to pick on, because somewhere, I'm able to sail through this passage easily, read it easily, right? So this is my third choice. Now, passage 5, once again, economics. But considering this passage of economics and my first passage of economics, probably the first one was a better read because it was shorter. It was lighter in ideas, not heavily, not using heavy jargon. And to think of the questions here, not my straightforward inferences or so. There was that one interview question, difficult for the ones who don't really know how to approach this question. One inference question was difficult, and after a long time, we come across a tone question, which again was rather challenging. The main idea question, the first one there, was probably the only, breather, the only moderate one. But would I want to get into this? Between, as I told you, between RC1 and RC5, in terms of understanding the idea, RC1 is a far better bet. This not only has 3 difficult questions, it's also a heavy read, all right? And also, to think of the kind of question you have here, further application. As an interviewer, what question would you ask the author? Remember, you cannot ask anything that is redundant. Anything redundant, anything that has already been captured in the passage becomes a redundant question. An interview question that you will pose is a further application question, to extend from the data given there. It could either be a continuation of what has been discussed. It could be a question that asks you to support one of the ideas, further data to support or corroborate, to strengthen one of the ideas in the passage. Or it could be a question that asks for a clarification of any contradiction, any conflict in the given ideas. Which is why, if unless you know what this question type is, a question type that was seen majorly in 2011, CAT 2011, CAT 2012, CAT 2013, was seen majorly, hasn't been seen in the last couple of years, but you need to know how to approach this. So yes, not something that I would want to bet on, particularly in that 40 minutes, I'll probably not want to get into this passage. So passage 2, passage 3, passage 4 are my choices. And if time permits, between passage 1 and passage 5, I will choose passage 1, the easier one. What about this? If I took a look at this VA sectional at the start, and I realized that I have these straightforward logical reasoning questions. In the first place, logical reasoning is easy. These question types are easy. There's no heavy data to read. Even if it was given in a slightly inverted manner, wherein you had, you had to identify the second statement in the conclusion, correct? In the statement conclusion question, one statement was given, the conclusion was given, you had to identify what would be the other statement, second statement. It still makes for easy reading and quick reading. Though question 26 has been marked difficult, it's really not very difficult. It's not a very difficult one. It's just that you get, there are two such uh, statements that you get caught between slightly. So you might take a little time there. Logical continuation, one question has been marked difficult, but yes, if you apply the elimination strategy of logical continuation, if you understood how this question is to be approached, even that is not a difficult one. For people who've mastered logical continuation, all three questions are very easy, can be done easily. Two of them are actually moderate. Even the first one is not really difficult, as I told you, but if your elimination is not in place, you'll have a problem with this. Sentence completion was a very, very easy one. You just had to, catch, some of the words there. And the moment you realize that there is that fourth blank for which only one word fits in, you know that it has to be option one. Nothing else fits into that. You need an adverb or so. Nothing else fits in there. So a real bumper here, out of these 8 questions, you could manage all of them in a matter of 10 minutes too. Because statement conclusion, statement assumption is just about, let's say, a minute a question. It's not heavy reading. 1 minute mein ho jata hai. So these 4 questions, this one takes you less than a minute. So that's about 5 questions in less than 5 minutes. And then you spend 1.5 minutes or so on the logical continuation. In 10 minutes, you can actually attempt all of these questions and get quite a number of them right, which therefore makes this a lovely surprise package. And that is the reason you will find that the expected scores are rather high. 2 easy questions, absolute sitters, 16 moderate questions. We can even stretch these 16 moderate questions to maybe 18, right? Because the only difficulties that we found were in 2 RCs. Again, between those 2 RCs, the first one was easier, doable. So even if we consider 16 as moderate and doable, out of the difficult 10, perhaps a 2 or 3 that, I find easy and therefore I'm able to take. So what's our expectation? Suddenly you find that the verbal scores have, increased. At a score of 48 is your 98 percentile, because you can easily take about 20 questions in a matter of 40 minutes, even more. And accuracy has actually been marked in 80%. Considering a paper like this, without a lot of twists and turns, your accuracy can actually go higher. In fact, 98 percentile might even be a score or 2 higher. But 48 is what we've identified for 98 percentile, 53 for 99, 100 percentile could even go a little higher than 62. So 62 plus, maybe a 63, 64, right? 95 at a 43. It's a first of sorts. Not many papers have we seen where a 95 is pegged at a score of, at a net score of 43. 90 at a net score of 38 and a score of 31. That's again about 10, 11 questions, right? A score of 31 is what fetches you 80 percentile. So you'll find that because those 8 questions were easy and a couple of those passages had absolutely moderate questions, the scores are on the higher side. So a very pleasant experience, but what's our learning here? From in the last mock, you would have seen that there were vocab-based questions, those confusing words given. Usage questions have been run for a couple of papers. For the first time, you have logical reasoning coming in. Logical continuation you have seen, right? What's our learning here? Our learning is to be flexible, is to be prepared with almost every question type. Even though we are sitting 10 days ahead of CAT, let's not ignore certain other areas like perhaps critical reasoning, perhaps, grammar, perhaps a little bit of vocabulary. You've already done a lot of these things for NMAT. Let's not ignore any of that. Let's just be prepared. Because if I'm only going to focus on these three question types, parajumble, summary, and out of context, and to my surprise, if I find none of those questions appearing, my strategy is going to be hit badly. So let's keep an open mind. All right. Yes. So what does the overall scores? What do the overall scores look like? 80 percentile is a total of 66, just a 16 in DILR, 27 in QA, 31 in VARC. 90 percentile is at a total score of 80, a 21 in DILR, 35 in QA, and a 38 in VARC. 95 percentile at a total of 96. These are really overall slightly low scores. 96, DILR 25, QA 42, and VARC 43. 98 percentile is at 117 with 30 in DILR, 50 in QA, 48 in VARC. A 99 percentile is at 122, which is 35 in DILR, 56 in QA, and a 53 in VARC. 100 percentile is at 169 plus with a 48 in DILR, 66 in QA, and a 62 plus in VARC. So this is what EOM 16 is all about. We have just a few more to go. And as we are nearing the, much awaited day, something that you've been preparing for, let's keep our nerves calm. You are prepared, whatever you've prepared is quite sufficient. Of course, let's not ignore these last few days and go slow or go easy on our preparation. Let's continue that momentum, keep that momentum going. In fact, we could get aggressive for the next few days, 5-6 days, but let's keep our nerves as well. Let's keep calm and believe in ourselves. Believe that we have done enough work, right? All right, on that note, thank you so much. Good night. Take care.